So this week we're replacing the transmission cooler on the truck. It seems to be a little restrictive and it doesn't cool quite enough, so I got this Durali, it's an engine oil cooler kit, but it's the only one I found that had the same AN fittings as the full send diesel kit I just installed, the transmission lines, which were -8 AN fittings. It's a nice little cooler, well, pretty beefy. It comes with its own shroud, fan. It has a thermostat, so the fan kicks on at 180, I believe. I'm not going to be using that. I'm just going to toggle switch because I have a gauge. I want to keep it closer to like 140, 160 range. Comes with a fan. Already tested it out. Moves plenty of air. I don't think I'm going to have issues. Nice big screw-in fittings. I don't like having the quick connects and the rubber hose with the hose clamp on it. Like they keep coming apart, which is what's making me think my factory cooler is restricted. It's too big to fit behind the grill, so it's going under the truck. I'm gonna kind of tuck it up with the cross member right next to the transmission, try and keep it out of harm's way. But gonna have to make a custom bracket and custom wiring for all of it. So should be quite the project, but hopefully it helps keep everything in check, keep the transmission safe. So might as well just get started. Hopefully you can figure out what's going on here. I'm under the truck. You can see the transmission there, front suspension, cross member, and then, oh, this is going to be difficult. Transmission cooler, I'd like for it to end up kind of generally in this area. You can kind of see the tail shaft of the transmission. Obviously I'm going to try and line it up a little better, but kind of a rough idea. So I'm going to get started on the bracket and then get it mounted before I start doing all the wiring and the transmission lines and whatnot. So I got the bracket started, all tacked in place. I'm going to weld the bolts in that are going to hold the cooler, so that way they're more of like a stud. I don't have to fight with both sides. So I really just got to get it all burned in and then figure out how I'm going to get it mounted up to the frame, which I don't think is going to be too difficult. Yeah, just going to finish it up and I'll check back in. So I got the bracket burned into place. Probably went a little overboard, but mainly trying to get some practice welding as well. Got my 4 studs stuck in there that line up with the cooler, so that way it should hold itself up a little bit while I'm trying to get it mounted when it's under the car, because I'm sure I'm going to have to take it on and off on at least a couple of occasions. But yeah. Like so. Then I just got to get the 2 tabs welded on over here to connect it to the cross member bolts and we'll be all set. So I ended up coming up with like a second half of the bracket because I just wasn't going to have the space to tilt the original one the way I wanted to. I just have 2 bolts kind of loosely holding it in here, kind of test fit, rubbing the fuel lines up here. So gonna have to bend it outwards here, which I was expecting, and match the same on the bottom, because I want the cooler up and tucked out of the way, so it's gonna be kind of high up and at an angle, but the fan on there is pretty powerful, so I'm not too worried about it. Especially I only really have issues sitting at lights and stuff because decent pan with some fins on it too, so that pretty much helps on the height once you get moving. So just get this all bent up and then get the bracket for the cooler attached to it and we'll be all set. Alright, so bracket's finished. So not too complicated, but should get the job done just fine. You know, and I'm sure we mentioned before, we're no professional fabricators here, but if I could put that on the fridge, I probably would. So, it's the first real structural thing I've made with the flux welder. So, a little bit worried about it, so I probably went a little overboard, but, well, hopefully, because I don't want to drop the transmission cooler on the highway, so we should be just fine. Now it's on to the sloppy part of actually getting the lines run, which means I gotta drain some transmission fluid, which is never fun, and then getting all the wiring run for the switch, and, well, the fan I'm gonna have on a relay, and then switch and all that, but we'll go through that later. Alright, so that's what it looks like from the side installed. You can kind of see the wire hanging down, and a little bit of the bracket, but it's not as low as the cross member. I'm not too worried about that. I am a little worried about how close to the fuel line it is up there on the actual bracket. It's got probably a 1/4 inch, so I'm probably gonna end up putting some kind of shielding on there. I don't have any for now. And then, it's gonna be hard to see also, but up here, kind of where my hand is. Oh, man. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see that. But the top fitting on that cooler is going to be pretty close to the top, but with the angle, I was hoping it would help. There's just not a lot of space. So, understanding more now why people put them in the bed, but I don't use it often, but when I do, it's full, so I just don't want to do that. Okay, but now it's time for the messy part where we actually just disconnect the cooler lines up here. So got a nice clean pan, so hopefully I don't have to reuse it. I got about 6 quarts of fluid, but not exactly sure how much is going to come out. I got the fan all wired in, hooked it up to a little toggle switch here on the dash. Used a relay in the middle, so this is controlling the relay. Relay turns on fan on and off, so that way I don't burn through switches. But you can hear it running down there. So I already filled it up, checked for fluid, or checked fluid level, checked for leaks. We're good to go. Just make sure that you have a fuse. I have one for the switch, one for the fan itself, but you just got to make sure you have a fuse in there. In case you have any kind of wiring issues as you're going down the road, you don't want to burn it down. All I got left to do is remove the factory cooler, and she's back on the road. I mean, I don't even really have to do that, I just should. So, gonna get to that. And she's gone. Now, to be honest, or to be straightforward, if you need to reuse the cooler, you need to remove the bumper to get it out. I'm not reusing it. I can't imagine anyone wanted to buy it, so I just went ahead and, making a mess, I just bent the shit out of it to get it out. And those lines had like a 90-degree bend right there, just get around the frame, under the intercooler and whatnot, and I just was real careful not to put pressure on the AC condenser, the intercooler. You just reach the little hole in there, and I just straighten it out. So we'll have one last update when we're going down the road and seeing how temperature control is. So. Alright, so I just got to the car wash. It's actually, truck just got up to temperature 190 a few minutes ago, more like a minute or two ago, and it just started coming off the gauge for the transmission temperature. So you can see here, it's actually kind of a cold day today, and for Texas. We're probably down in the 50s, so it started out right at the bottom. And it's actually starting to pick up temperature fairly quick now that it's off the bottom. But I'm gonna leave it running to get higher up in temperature while I'm washing the underside from all the spray that came from the old cooler. And once we get back, I'm gonna turn the fan on and see if we can actually see a noticeable drop in it, because I'm kind of interested to see if we will. So yeah, hopefully now we'll just find a couple of quarters lying around and be able to clean it up a little bit. Alright, so last night we weren't really able to get the transmission up to temperature to like a satisfactory amount, just because it was too cold and I didn't feel like driving around long enough to get it up there. Right now I'm on the way out to Wimberley actually, so I got about 50 miles ahead of me. It's about 65 degrees outside, so we should get a pretty good idea of kind of the operating temperature with the newer cooler and kind of take it from there. So right now, I mean, I've been on the road for like 3 minutes and I'm looking at probably about 65, 70 degrees transmission fluid temp in the pan. So we'll see how that goes after I get closer to the destination, about 50 miles down the road. So we'll check back in, see what kind of temperatures we're looking at. Alright, so we're pretty much done with the highway for today. But I'm pretty impressed with how it worked out. The transmission temperature never really got above 145. I mean, you know, cruising on the highway 60, 70 miles an hour with the torque converter locked up, it's not going to get super hot, hopefully. But that's right about where the stock one got, right behind the grill, and this one's, you know, tucked out of the airflow, and I didn't have the fan on any or anything like that. So I'm pretty impressed with how well it's doing. I was a little worried I was going to have two of them, and that just finding room for one was enough issue. So again, cruising about 55, 60. It was at 145-ish. It turned on the fan, and it dropped down to about 130. So even the fan at speed does some work. It's pretty impressive. It's a powerful little fan they put on there. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it so far. You know, I appreciate everyone watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to comment. I try to respond to everything I can.